My name is Neil Burnfin. This is an overview of my capstone project for my Education Specialist in Instructional Technology program at Kennesaw State University.
My research project was based on adaptive math software that we use at my school. The name of the software is iPass Math, and we have been using it for several years now. The purpose of this study is to determine the relationship between scores in iPass and scores on the GCRCT. The study also investigates whether iPass has any effect on students' attitudes toward iPass and mathematics in general. This study is important because it gives our school and district some real feedback with students within our district who use iPass. Others will want to review the study in order to make decisions about whether or not to purchase iPass for their school or district and whether the benefits outweigh the costs of the program. The research tells us very little about specific computer-based programs and how they affect student achievement. This study will be important to our school district and other districts, the iLearn company, and general research on computer-based educational programs.
What does the literature say? There is a good bit of research on computer based software and the effect it can have on student success. These studies range anywhere from the effect of case study design on software creation to computer based versus teacher based instruction. From what I can tell, there are not a lot of studies and research available on specific adaptive software of any kind. It is also helpful to have research from the sample population you are working with, and as I could find neither of these, hence the necessity of the study.
My research questions included: does participation in the iPass program relate to improved achievement on the GCRCT? And does using iPass change students' attitudes toward the iPass program and mathematics in general? I collected data through a program we have called SchoolNet. I collected data from all students who returned their assent and consent form. I requested participation from students in 7th and 8th grade. We only have this program in 6th through 8th grades, and because of this, 7th and 8th grades are the only grades in which I might have a GCRCT test, an iPass administration for a year, and then a post-iPass GCRCT test at the end of the year. Because, as you can see from the chart, I didn't have a huge number of students who had a pre-test and post-test with an iPass administration in between, I had to become creative in looking at all the data I had to see if there were any connections to be made. I also created a survey using Google Forms with these questions. I used this data to try to see if there was any connection as to how students looked at iPass and whether or not they thought it was affecting their feelings toward iPass and math in general. Some high points from the data include: students who had iPass in 6th grade had scores that decreased on average from 5th to 6th grade, although there was no evidence that iPass was related. There was no significant difference due to iPass in scores from 6th to 7th grade. There was no correlation between the number of years students had iPass and their latest test score. There was also no correlation between a pre-iPass test score and a post-iPass test score. From my survey data, I noticed that there were equal numbers of of students who had just enrolled and those who had been there most of their middle school career. Most students who took the survey had been in a connections math class for their entire middle school career. The average rating of iPass from 1 to 10 was 6.5, but the median was 7, which means that more than half the students rated iPass a 7 or higher. Students generally said they like math sometimes. There was no relationship between students who liked math and their ratings of the iPass program. 58% of the students said they liked math the same as before using iPass, which leads me to believe that they don't connect iPass with their attitude toward math. The instruments of measurement and statistics performed on the data in this study are methods which are generally proved to be reliable. The problem with this study would be sample size. If you look at the data carefully, many of the statistics and results from the study would have probably been more reliable if a larger sample size was used. This does not mean that the same results would not have occurred, but a larger sample size would better reflect the entire student population who uses iPass. In talking to the teachers who use iPass in the Connections math class, I understand that through training it is recommended for iPass to be successful that a student needs to be on it at least 45 minutes a day. However, students in these classes are only required to be on it for at most 30 minutes a day. They may use it at home or wherever there is an internet connection, but they are only required to use it for the 30 minutes in class. It is understandable that the fact that more time and attempts to learn a skill should mean a better chance at mastering the skill. However, in this case, it means that not using iPass in the way it is prescribed by the company affects the validity of any study on the program. Unfortunately, I was not able to find any substantive evidence that iPass affects student test scores. I believe if I had a better sampling of students and collected more data, I might have noticed a difference. I also noted that the students did not use the iPass for the prescribed time of 45 minutes a day, which could have had a negative effect on the outcome. More testing of this nature needs to be done to ensure that we have the data to show that large amounts of money we are spending on programs of this nature are worth it. If anything, iPass does a good job at allowing students to work on their own through concepts that are on their level and also instructs to mastery. iPass can be used in the classroom setting to not only instruct but also allow teachers that one-on-one time they need to be with the student when the student is struggling.
I learned a lot about the research process through this capstone project. I was anxious to see what predictions I had made to myself were evident in the research. I was a little disappointed that the research did not show what I might have predicted, but I realized that part of this is from the sample size, and the majority of it is because we cannot predict with certainty the outcome of most research. If we could, there would be no reason to go through the process to find solutions to answers we already know.